What's going out there? It's September 30th. I'm Frank Curzio, host of the Wall Street Unplugged podcast, where I break down headlines and tell you what's really moving these markets. A lot of fear, debt ceiling problems, companies warning, interest rates rising, getting emails like crazy. I'm going to bring in Daniel Creech here, senior analyst, Curzio Research. Dan, what's going on? A lot going on in the markets, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Some more volatility. What's happening, Frank? Hello, everybody. This is a good week.
Yeah, it kind of puts things in check, right? Because every 2%, even last week, right? It was a Monday was Evergrande. Everyone went crazy. And by the end of the week, I think we finished up.
Yeah.
Now we have all these other problems right now, and everybody's kind of worried. But, there are more and more risks. And as you add more risks to the marketplace, you have to worry, right? It's not just, well, stocks are expensive, but interest rates low. Well, interest rates are rising now, right? Then you have, do we have debt issues to worry about? Do we have systemic risk in China? So, let's cover one of the things that are in the news right now. I'm going to be honest with you. I hate freaking covering this, but we're going to cover it anyway because it's in the news and everybody wants to know, but that's a debt ceiling. So question to you, Daniel, is a debt ceiling something investors need to worry about?
No, in short. But kudos to Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, the largest bank by assets, who is playing his part on the political side, who yesterday, I think it was yesterday on CNBC, that said, he's preparing for a default from the United States because the politicians can't reach an agreement. I just think that that's hilarious. I mean, he wants a bipartisan bill to come together to get rid of the debt ceiling completely, which of course they do because he's one of the most connected and wealthiest people in the world, let alone this country, and he's powerful. This is just a lot of smoke and mirrors, to take distractions off of everything else. So, no, they'll come to an agreement. I think something's coming to the floor today that has quote-unquote bipartisan support to just basically do that on its own. That won't happen. They're always going to sneak something in there to hurt us little folks like, well, not you, Frank, since you're a big wig and rubbing shoulders from Dallas. I'm still not over that. But guys like me, we'll have to deal with that. But no, you investors out there, any volatility around the debt ceiling and interest rates going on in the short term, I think is a buying opportunity. I'm still cautiously long, Frank.
All right, so let's bring everyone in here because you hear the debt ceiling. Some of you might understand what that is. It's how much money the federal government may borrow to meet its existing obligations, right? That's a textbook definition. So without an agreement, without meeting to raise that limit, the Treasury Department can't keep paying the federal government's bills. So government employees, everything, they're not going to get paid. And that will result in a U.S. default, which could take place in October if they don't come to an agreement. It's great. Default, first time, U.S. default. Again, things like systemic risk. I mean, the big words that attract a lot of people. But I'm not saying this is a non-event. It pretty much is. But I'm not saying it's a non-event because I think it's funny when you have to look at the politics here. Because right now, if you look, the Democrats have full control. And they could pass it. They should be able to pass this thing, right? But there's some Democrats that won't. So what the Republicans are doing, and the Republicans are doing exactly what the Democrats did. They made it as hard as hell. They're going to ask for everything they want before they pass that ceiling, right? And it's on them. And they did it before, right? As long as they don't work together, they all want to fuck each other. That's the way it is with politics, right? They don't care about anybody. They care about themselves, and they want to screw the other person. So what the Republicans want is they want them to raise the debt ceiling 100% for the Democrats. And yet you still have some Democrats that are like, nah, I don't know if I'm going to do this, and they're worried. So not that they don't want to raise a debt ceiling, but it's attached to like two separate bills, right? And the other bills that fund traditional infrastructure, which a couple of Democratic senators that are not approving this, I love, because the reason why they're saying this is they're afraid of inflation. And we're going to talk about that in a minute because inflation is running wild. We know it's not transitory. Every single piece of data on inflation is getting worse. It hasn't bottomed yet. And when I say it hasn't bottomed yet, it's not like Delta and COVID. About 2-3 weeks ago, we saw hospitalization rates getting better. We saw less people getting, the percentage of people infected going down. We finally saw it bottom, and now they're getting better, just like a lot of scientists or whatever predicted. And now you can invest accordingly, right? When something bottoms, you can invest accordingly. Right now, we're not seeing a bottoming in that trend, which we'll cover in a second. But the whole debt ceiling thing, I mean, here's the scenario. They don't pass it, the default. The market crashes. And then all these guys are going to look at polls, and it's going to say that we want to hang every single one of them, and everybody hates every one of them, right? We want to beat the shit out of every politician. And then they're going to all come together and be like, holy shit, okay, we have to pass this, right? Just like they did with TARP when they didn't pass it the first time, right? So then they passed the second time. I said, holy shit, this is real. Like, we can't look at polls. The whole global markets are crashing. So, and then they'll pass it and then things will get back to, I don't think it'll get to that point. That's why I say it's pretty much a non-event, because even if it does and the markets do crash and it has a U.S. default, which I think the date Yellen is saying is around the 13th.
18th, I believe.
Is it the 18th? I think it's the 18th, but Yellen said it's more like the 3rd. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I thought I saw the 13th. I saw the 18th, but I heard certain people mention the 13th or whatever it is, a week apart. I mean, they should get rid of this. It's a joke. It's the next, if they pass it and they don't do it permanently, we're going to run into this problem in December. Like December 8th, I think is the next time that this comes around with debt ceiling to raise it. So, again, I love what Jamie Dimon is doing. Jamie Dimon always talks about politicians, how they don't get along anymore. I mean, Democrats and Republicans always had different opinions, and they used to argue and then they used to go out for drinks. Now they actually hate each other. These politicians. And, they're not agreeing on anything. They don't care about the people. It's just about power. And right now, that's how you have to focus as an investor, where this could be a big thing where the market crash could be a trading opportunity. Overall, I wouldn't be selling my long-term positions into this, but I don't know if you agree with my whole thesis on that.
Yeah, I do. I don't, like I said, we kind of disagreed about this yesterday. I felt like the narrative around the market volatility was around debt ceilings and these infrastructure bills and all that. And I just think that's ridiculous. And I'm not putting these words in your mouth, Frank, and I'm not saying you're taking this argument, but for you listeners out there, if the world has changed, like Frank is saying, where they used to get along, go out and have beers after disagreement, now they hate each other. You and I shouldn't have hate in your heart, but let these guys hate each other. These are the worst of the worst, okay? So if they don't have any friends, who the hell cares? All they do is screw you over. And I got to touch on one thing first, real quick, Frank. Did you see the two Dallas Fed presidents from Boston Dallas Federal Fed president and the Boston Fed president resigning?
Yes.
And why are they resigning?
I didn't see the news on it.
They are basically two advocacy groups called them out on what they would consider you and I for insider trading, because does it shock anybody out there that the guys that make the policy to turn on the Willy Wonka and Wizard of Oz printing press, to print money and bail out their friends, to suppress and hurt every middle class and poor person in the United States and trickle effect around the world, was buying and selling stocks and or ETFs and or municipal bonds during the pandemic? Mm-hmm. Does that shock anybody? If it does, you really need to pay attention a lot more to what Frank and I are saying and wake up. Because these guys, you and I would be thrown in jail for half of what this is. Yeah. Okay? And they cite health reasons. I don't wish bad health on anybody, but get the hell out of here with health reasons. One of the guys made over 30 stock trades, multi-million-dollar stock trades, when you know what you're going to bail out, when you know what you're going to come to the rescue. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's disgusting. I mean, man, you want to talk about these guys, they ought to be stripped of everything. They ought to be losing their pensions. They ought to be kicked out on the street. That's just absolutely ridiculous.
And it goes for politicians as well, right? And it's not just like, ragging every politician. I mean, we need them to get along to pass some of these things, right? And we all need an infrastructure bill. You waited a long time, you play politics. Now you're going to throw out the infrastructure bill at the exact worst time, Daniel, where you cannot deliver those supplies, where raw materials are going absolutely through the roof. We're seeing companies warn, and this is where we debated yesterday when you're like, hey, this debt ceiling, the market's, I said it's not a debt ceiling, it's interest rates, right? So we're seeing rates and treasuries go up, and they are at the highest levels. Again, they pull back a little bit now, but they rose by a pretty large amount in the past week. And for me, that's really what makes people nervous, right? Because it's a sign that, hey, inflation is here. To me, that's a much, much bigger risk. I don't know if you, and there's also another risk too, where which adds to this, but I don't know what your thoughts, but for me, it's the interest rates going high, the highest levels in treasuries, 10 years, highest level, I think, since June. And it happened all of a sudden. And already the data came out, I think it was like a day ago, saying that, we're seeing, fewer mortgages. I mean, it was a significant difference. As someone for me who didn't lock in their rate yet, it's a significant difference. And I'm seeing that, and I'm going through the whole loan process now and building the home. But, I'm like pushing these guys and saying, hey, we should get this done now. I mean, it's still incredibly low, but it was really, really low. And now it's going higher. And is that a direct result of inflation? Because now you're hearing companies warn. But to me, that was the bigger problem.
And that makes sense. I got to ask a dumb question. Like, picture me in a classroom, and I feel like everybody wants to ask this, and I'll be the kid to raise my hand. What changed from last week to this week? Because the Fed came out and said, hey, more people are in favor of raising rates, maybe next year and all that. But we already knew that. So what happened over the weekend? Why is there more fear, and why are interest rates bumping up right now? I'll be honest. I honestly don't know. I think it's more of a scare tactic between, I still think China's a huge overhang, and that's nowhere near done. But I think the politics are getting involved on the debt ceiling too much, and yeah, that's going to push rates up in the short term. Again, I just don't know what changed from over the weekend when Powell told the market exactly what they want to hear last week.
Well, they basically said we're not raising rates and we may taper a little bit. That's what they said, which was surprising. They really didn't just, and they said, oh yeah, we do have inflation. It's a little worse than expected. It's going to get better. To me, there's a big difference because this week you have interest rates going higher, and they spiked a lot higher than anyone would think in like a 3-day period. For me, when I'm looking at all the data and the sources I have in the supply chain now is remarkable. I thank so many of you. You know, the network is so powerful and it helps us all out. So, I encourage you, frankcurzioresearch.com, to send me emails, a lot of you in industries, and have, just amazing data, right, that I could share and I could help you and show you the right way to invest in this. This is supposed to bottom, and that's why I talked about it before. It was supposed to bottom, right? The supply chain issues. We heard from Ford, we heard from GM, we heard from everybody that second quarter would bottom. First quarter was terrible. Second quarter, and this is just supply chips. This is like, it's resulting in fewer light vehicles. So if we just take the light vehicle side, it was 3.2 million lost vehicles in Q3, which is accounting for due to the chip shortage. Okay. Everyone's low in their numbers. We're well over 4 million for Q4. And even in Q1, they're going to get lowered further. So when you haven't hit bottom in the trend, that's when it's dangerous. Because you don't know where the bottom. When COVID, you saw the bottom, you saw stocks come back. For me, I wanted to confirm it. And yeah, we got in a month late and we got a lot of good gains and amazing. We went to May. You want to confirm it. We haven't seen a bottom in this. Now we want to throw an infrastructure package on top of this, which nothing's going to get shipped anywhere. We're seeing raw material prices go through the roofs. We're seeing FedEx warn, saying we're going to raise prices by the highest percentage in over 10 years. Sherwin-Williams their second warning in 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, they said the persistent industry-wide raw material availability constraints and pricing inflation we have previously reported, which was a couple days ago, have worsened. We do not expect to see improved supply or low raw material pricing in the fourth quarter as anticipated. As a result of these headwinds, we're narrowing our third quarter sales expectations and establishing third quarter earnings guidance. You are going to see, I warned a couple weeks ago, you're going to see it even further. You're going to see hundreds of companies start warning. Some of them have pricing power. You get Chipotle's, people are going to pay whatever. Their new brisket's great, by the way. They're going to pay for whatever. McDonald's has pricing power. Some of these companies have pricing power. A lot of them do not. Not all the restaurants do. And you're going to see massive separation. You saw what Nike did, and Nike warned. You're seeing Malaysia. Malaysia's been shut down as well, which is a big bottleneck in the supply chain. China with energy and stuff, and you're seeing that result. Get ready for Beijing Olympics. Now they're having blackouts in northern China. All this stuff that I'm tracking, where you're seeing, record levels of ships being backed up in ports. Guys, this is a big deal. You're not going to get anything for Christmas. You're not going to get. That's the holiday season is the biggest for how many companies? I'd say 80% of the companies see the biggest business then. Whether it's travel related, airlines, retailers, all this stuff, right? That's where people spend the most money, and you're not going to be able to get stuff, even if you're ordering it right now. You're not going to get stuff for the holidays. That's the scary part. Now, what's different now is when you see interest rates rise, what does that mean? Because when we see interest rates rise, Daniel, you're seeing technology companies get hit the most. And it's confusing people. And they're like, why should that happen? These guys are the best balance sheets. These guys are great. And they had a guy on, on CNBC, smart guy, obviously. And he's like, a lot of people are saying this. And he's like, I have a math degree in whatever, in 10 different whatever. And he's like, and I can't even explain it. He's like, this is a risk that all stocks should carry. And he's dead wrong on that because of what he doesn't understand. And I'm not saying he understands a lot more than I do when it comes to math, but not with stocks. Tech stocks are the most expensive group right now. They're trading at 30 times forward earnings, a lot of these names, even the great names. When interest rates rise, what happens? That results in higher debt costs. That means people are going to take out fewer loans, which relates and goes right into CapEx. That means you're going to spend less money on CapEx. So now when companies see less revenue, because you're going to see less revenue, again, you got to spend money to make money, less borrowing. Now they're going to see less revenue if you look at advertising budgets. Advertising budgets usually, especially Fortune 500 companies, are based on a percentage of sales. And if those sales go lower, that means your advertising budget goes lower. So that's Facebook, that's Google, which derive, most of their revenue through advertising. It's less money they're going to spend on cloud. They're not going to get rid of cloud. Cloud's the greatest thing, data analytics. But if you look at the Amazon calls, you look at Microsoft with Azure, you look at Google when it comes to cloud, They have so many different features that people are spending more and more and more and more. They're going to cut back spending on cloud. And when they do, what is it? That's Microsoft, that's Amazon, that's Google. That's their growth model. That's what's really driving those companies right now. Apple, higher rates impacts consumers the most. And why are higher rates happening? Because we're seeing inflation across the board and everyone is seeing it. We're seeing prices rise across the board, which means what? It means that when it comes to the new Apple, 13, are people going to pay for that? I mean, you saw the reviews on it. The battery life is fantastic. And then you have like a panoramic camera that takes videos when you're filming movies, which is probably 3% of the people. So, Apple used to sell their phones every 3 years. They're trying to force it down your throat every year. But if you have the 12, which a lot of people got, because that is a fantastic phone. I have the 12. I love it. I'm not buying the 13. And I'm definitely not buying it if your costs are going up, right? So if you're looking at technology companies, it impacts them the most because they're super expensive. That's where the CapEx flows to the most in technology right now. And you're going to see that being pulled back, which is why it gets reined in when you see higher interest rates. Hopefully I explained that okay. But just to say, well, why does it impact technology companies the most? That's why, because CapEx, that's where all these companies are spending to advertise, to buy their products, for cloud, for their software services. That's going to get pulled back. And that's going to result in less earnings, which, these guys have good balance sheets and they'll probably buy back stock to make up the difference. But, interest rates are by far the biggest risk to the market, Daniel. I mean, by far, because it's the one thing that the Fed can't do to stop. Like, they can't just throw money at it to stop it. They actually have to take money out of the system with higher interest rates. You have to raise rates. You have to stop buying bonds. So forget about tapering. You got to just stop. And that's going to result in, again, a lot of money coming out of this market, and that's the dangerous scenario. That's why inflation is the biggest threat, and I don't know why they're not addressing it. It's not transitory. We all know that. That's the one thing that scares the shit out of me in this market.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I mean, and you hit the nail on the head there with that, because it'll drag on profits, and what it also does is higher interest rates makes you have to compete for capital. So if you have a more reasonable interest rate that you can just go park money in bonds or a dividend stock, then, and that growth is going to slow because of what you just explained, then why wouldn't you just transfer money over here instead of here? So, that makes sense. That's a good point. Interest rates are a big deal. The Fed is a big deal because they're going to get behind. They're going to have to raise rates eventually. I just don't see how they have the balls, for lack of a better word, to do it when they need to. They're too connected. They're too worried about everything that they do themselves. I'll tell you one of the big risks coming up, Frank, that we need to watch out for. Did you see Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren, call out? She must be an Austin Powers fan, because evidently Jerome Danger Powell is his real name. She's not going to, support him in his reelection. I don't know what time that is, his next appointee, if he's going to stay at the head Fed. She's half right. And listen up, because I am no fan of hers or crazy liberal policies in general. What they want to do with the Fed is already an awful situation in what they do. Jerome Powell is a dangerous man, but not because he made the banking system weaker. He's a dangerous man because he's artificially manipulated rates for over a decade. He's a dangerous man because he's declared war on savings for the middle class and poor. So, Frank, think of the lost opportunity cost everybody has. If you're anybody that has any type of savings and you don't spend more than you make, you have earned a negative return and lost money year over year over year for over a decade. You compound that at any interest rate and everybody would be better off. And it's only because they wanted to prop up the economy and the connected friends. So yeah, she is right that he is very dangerous. She's just wrong about how. The real risk to the next Fed the next chairman, is that you have one side of the political aisle that wants the Fed to take on climate change. You want them to take on income inequality. They are the direct player in income inequality. It is because of the Fed and their policies that you have income inequality. The richer get rich, the poorer get poor. So the sleight of hand here going forward, that's going to be a huge risk. Who's going to raise interest rates when it's politically unpopular? I don't know, but we'll see what happens there. Yeah, you make great points, though. So you want to stick to, where am I going with this, on the supply chains, like you said, that's under amount of stress, and where should investors hide out? Look at strong brands, look at strong balance sheets, and the supply chain thing that comes to pop into my head is Hanesbrand. They control the majority of their supply chains. I'll be interested in to keep following that. That might even sneak its way into CRA. But you want people that have the operations close to their vest and not so much third party. And it's not, the headlines like you always joke about with the autos. Hey, it's great that Ford was up yesterday when the market was down, because they're going to invest $11 billion in electric vehicles, and that's going to pay off in years in the future. So buy our stock today. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's kind of ironic and that's funny, but that's the way the world works. The other side of that is you now have interest rates and everything going up, and we're worried about that right now. I don't see them going up real quick. We'll see, but that's a fun back and forth between us.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Elizabeth, you know what I want to do with Elizabeth Warren, honestly? I want to give her a hug. I really want to give her a hug.
Politicians, everybody needs a hug.
No, not everybody. That woman needs a hug. I've never seen someone that angry and pissed off at every single thing. Like, I haven't seen a smile in like 4 years. If you have, send a picture. I want to see it. FrankRizzResearch.com. I mean, that person's the most... She just hates everything. Like, I will, like, just one time you get up there and say, hey, you know what? We're happy with the job you're doing, whatever it is. It's like, how do I destroy this person publicly and grandstand? And to me, it's hilarious. But, you know, she's someone I really don't pay much attention to. Again, she's great at getting headlines for the people who love her the most. And that's what I got to give her credit for. Just like Peter Schiff, again, you know my thoughts on Peter Schiff. Great marketer. I mean, he should be writing a book about that instead of the market crashing for 15 years, which hasn't done. So, I mean, you know, good for him. He's got people that listen to him. That's a great book. How I could be wrong for 15 years and still increase my net wealth and, you know, just have more followers than anyone in history, which is great and good for him. That's good. He knows how to entertain. Same with her. But when I see stuff like that and just the sound bites, to me, look, it's getting played out. You know, it's getting fucking played out, Daniel. To me, everybody's saying how terrible the Fed is. I mean, it's like the common playbook. Be fucking original. Like, just be original. Seriously, every politician, your job is to just destroy the Fed, right? The Fed is the enemy. That's the enemy. Throw it on the bus, whatever. You know, in the meantime, it's a political organization that's run by the current party in power, no matter who the party is, right? That's where it's run. I mean, look, we started raising interest rates. Trump was like, stop raising interest rates lower, and they lowered them. Same here. It's controlled by the party, but it's just, you know, it gets played out. It's kind of like the Tesla thesis, like it's a fraud. And it was a fraud at 75, 200, 300, 600, 700. Now saying it's still fraud. And the same guys, fraud. They don't realize people are listening to them and getting destroyed. So for me, that's entertainment. A big thing is what you need to pay attention to, guys, is the companies and what they're saying. A lot of companies coming out and warning. So we saw FedEx come out and warn. That's at a 52-week low. We saw Sherwin-Williams come out and warn. I just told you what they said. Cal-Maine's another one that came out yesterday. You know, egg sales, their stock was up a little bit, but they said that if they're looking at the massive amount of inflation that they're seeing, I mean, go buy eggs. You see the inflation there, right? But people like eggs and they're going to pay for it. Again, some people have pricing power, others don't. And you have to be careful. So you say you want to buy a company with good balance sheets, you know, just, you know, strong management teams. I get that. You have to buy companies with pricing power because they're going to have to raise their prices. There's a massive labor shortage every place. You're seeing price of raw materials go up through the roof. They cannot get anything shipped right now. It's almost impossible, especially if you have operations overseas and it's almost impossible because there's only limited container ships. There's a massive backlog, and even the ones that are there, you have the biggest companies in the world overbidding for them, which is screwing like those specialty companies. There's a lot of companies that are going to warn beyond belief, and they're not just going to say, hey, like just like Sherwin-Williams, you won twice in 3 weeks. Like you said, Daniel, what happened this week compared to what happened in 3 weeks? Think about that. To see inflation, to not be able to see that in a 3-week period and won twice. I mean, that's pretty crazy. That's something that, again, you have to pay attention to because you could buy a stock. Some of these are reflected. We're seeing the market come down. Ford is expected, I guess. You know, now we know supply chain issues, and now the CEO's like, yeah, you know, they're going to last probably into 2022. Like, you know, a month ago, 2 months ago, you were saying, oh, it's just, you know, second quarter, like last month, you know, lying to everybody. But now he's like, oh, like nothing. So it might be factored in. Just, you know. Just like Tesla is a fraud. It might be factored in when it keeps going higher and higher and higher. Who knows? But
absolutely.
You know, I like to see when something bottoms out and then you're going to see an explosion. And people love getting ahead of that before the explosion comes. They love it. That's what they did when the market crashed during the credit crisis. A lot of smart people were right. They came in January and said the market's ready to go. And the market went up in January in like the first couple of weeks after it sold off tremendously in 2008, right? So then it went up, and then people forget that it fell another 30%. Okay, you want to see that ultimate bottom somehow. You're going to see companies buying back stocks, insider buying, especially insider buys now. If, you know, stocks are falling, you want to see because they have a good indication of how things are. Maybe, you know, they're oversold. Just be careful because the warnings aren't going to be, hey, we're going to miss by 10%. They're going to cut them in half. And if this problem does not bottom by Q4, You're going to do the same thing for Q1 and into Q2, and then you got to have uncertainty because you're not going to know what's going on, and you're not going to give those year 2022 forecasts. And when you don't do that and you have that kind of certainty, you got away with that during COVID. That's fine. A lot of uncertainty. Now investors want to see certainty. And if you remove your guidance and you're not too sure what's going to happen, that could result in a stock really, really, really getting hammered. A good example is Sam, Boston Beer. I mean, truly didn't work out too good for it. It was great, but now there's hundreds of fruity beverages and everything like that. You saw that when you remove the growth out of a company and they're trading at a high growth multiple, look out. You get destroyed. And you got to pay attention for trends like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the flip side of your Sherwin-Williams and FedEx warning, two key themes, two stocks to pay attention to. If you're in my camp and like Frank said, it is a low-hanging fruit to blame the Fed. I've been doing it for years just because I follow them. But Dollar Tree increased their share repurchase program by over $1 billion. And so they're up, I think, 14-15% today, well off its highs still. So look at Dollar Tree and look at Dollar General as well. And the thesis there is that as you have inflation and higher food costs, you're going to force millions and millions of people to go look elsewhere. So as wages stay stagnant and prices continue higher, it eats more and more of your paycheck to just go towards basic needs like food. And we're not even going to get into energy prices going up today or the price at the pump. But look at Dollar Tree, look at Dollar General, because the Fed is not pulling its foot off the pedal. Inflation is going to continue to get higher, and it's going to force, just like they force people into asset prices and screw people that don't have money to put into asset prices by lowering interest rates and killing savings rates. They're going to continue to press people into these different stores and go off Main Street, basically. And Dollar General and Dollar Tree are popping up everywhere. I don't know if you've noticed that, Frank, but they are popping up on damn near every corner. Dollar General just went up on the island here from a place I just moved at. So they're going to pop up everywhere. They're going to continue to get more consumers, and they're going to have a lot of flexibility with either share repurchases, dividends, special dividends will come into play at some time. And, those are the kind of names you want to look at just because that's the way the interest rates and the income inequality is going to continue to go.
Yeah. And agree with everything there. And again, we
not a real positive beat, but you can still make money off that. So take that away from positive.
Yeah,
it's not all negative.
We want to find the best ways to play this, right? I mean, even energy surging, we're seeing with, again, I covered this in yesterday's monologue, just, climate change. Doesn't matter what you believe in. Doesn't matter if you like it or not. It's here. It's happening. And the companies are on board. Corporates on board. We're talking trillions of dollars being managed. They're being forced on this, whether they believe it or not. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you believe in, but tons of money is going into this in its very early stages. ESG companies got a little bit ahead of themselves. They pull back 50-60% now. You're going to see the good players and the bad players. Right now, you're going to see separation, but there's constant money going into these things. And I guess the last thing I wanted to cover here real quick, I'm going to ask you a question since we've got a couple minutes here, is are you going to the Olympics in Beijing? And do you know that they're only like a few months away, right? I mean, maybe it's because, what is it? Did we delay COVID? I don't know. It could be because, I don't know. Maybe it's me. I mean, the timing, I'm doing a million things, but I guess, we push out the Olympics a little bit, but it was just, it's February, right?
Yeah,
so,
they start in February. They're going to celebrate my birthday month with the Winter Olympics. That's exciting.
And you're going, right?
Yeah, well, no. I didn't want to interrupt you earlier, but you did mention the rolling blackouts in China, but everybody needs to pay attention. That's on purpose. Okay. That is not because of something happening other than prices are moving very high. And you have this, like Frank talked about yesterday in his monologue with the climate change thing. Basically, Beijing is so screwed up and they're the only ones that can pollute more than everybody else basically combined and don't have to go by any rules because their president came out and said, hey, we're going to top out on CO2 emissions in 2030. Okay. It's 2021 here, people. Well, let's just round up and say it's 2022. So they got 8 more years to pollute. And then they're going to start getting better by 2060. All right, that's a hell of a timeline. That's like being engaged and happy for like 15 years. You ever meet those people that are engaged for 10 years and they're just happy?
They're always
after?
happy.
I know.
They're happy until they have kids.
Plus, you get to have a party. You get to have a party when you get engaged, too.
When you have kids, everything gets thrown.
Anyway,
you put a wrinkle that says, I won't even go there.
Now we're
yeah,
we have
kids. Kids are the greatest thing in the world. Man.
So evidently, China is so dirty and so coal-driven that they have to cut back on power now, which is going to affect more supply chains. There was an article about key Tesla and Apple suppliers are shutting down factories. Of course, they say right now that they're going to pick up the slack elsewhere and it's not going to affect anything. Well, I'm skeptical on that. But President Xi over there is excited to have blue, clear skies for the Winter Olympics. So they're going to, I guess, turn the power off until February. It's just, man, everybody needs to watch an episode of Seinfeld or do something to make you smile because we're kind of being Debbie Downers here, Frank.
A little bit. I mean, look, we do have interest rates low. We do have a lot of stocks that have come down off their highs. So you want to make your list. You do have companies that are going to have incredible pricing power, right? So you're going to have your winners. I think the mega caps are good investments. Maybe not. Maybe a little bit outside of technology. I think Netflix is the only FANG stock that's, let's see, up this year, but it's up. It's outperforming at least over the past 6 months or so. I saw a stat like that. They're doing well, which, they're killing everybody, and it makes sense. But the companies that do have pricing power, that's the ones you got to focus on, and you'll see it. Cal-Maine has pricing power, and they warned. They said, they didn't warn of earnings going low, but they said, hey, we dealt with this, but because they're able to raise prices tremendously. FedEx doesn't really have that ability because they have a little bit more competition. It's UPS or the post office and whatever. But, there's certain companies that do have that pricing power that people are going to pay for. But, you have to be careful in this market, especially over the next 3-4 weeks. If you're buying stocks, if you like something, buy a small position, because there's a strong likelihood you're going to see a lot of companies warn. And when they do, it depends how bad the warning is. And is it just, hey, this is a quarter concern, or we're just lowering 10%, 15%, or is it like, hey, we see this problem and we're removing guidance? That's when you get a 15, 20% hit, and it could happen in a lot of stocks. So you're going to see that 52-week low list continue to expand. A lot more companies warn. Inflation is here. It's not going anyplace, and you have to adjust. So keep an eye on interest rates. They go up, it's going to continue to hurt the market, and there's not a lot of places where you can go and stay safe. They really aren't. I mean, you like to think, well, consumer staples is going to get impacted the most. I mean, higher prices and high raw material costs. You're seeing it through Clorox. You're seeing it. Clorox trading at 30 times forward earnings, and they warned that stock got nailed. So, you got to see what Procter & Gamble with these products. Anything with chemicals, ag companies, tech, furniture. I mean, a lot of this stuff, the prices are up tremendously, and hopefully they can pass on those costs, because if they can't, you're going to see a lot more warnings. So, dang, man, we covered everything. There are positives. We are coming out with a lot of different issues. There's ways to take advantage of the market, even by, buying long-dated puts if you want, different sectors, which we do in our newsletters, which is Money Flow Trader with Ginia. This is why I created that product for times like this of uncertainty, when you see the market come down, which is an awesome product. And we are going to launch a brand new product, which I'm excited about, which is off of big money traders. So that's Luke Downey, and it's going to be option plays. And this is a guy that follows and tracks the money on short side, long side. He's done a fantastic job, has an amazing track record, and we're doing very, very well selling that front end newsletter right now. A lot of people interested. Have seen very few cancellations because of the quality, because of the videos he does. He explains it to you. But having that system right now with the money flowing in and out and algorithms, stuff like that, it's an awesome system. It's proven. He's doing well, and we're excited to launch that option-based product probably in a couple of weeks, so it should be really, really cool. So, Dan, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, bud.
Always fun. Cheers.
As always. And that's it for me. Question, comments, guys, keep them in. FrankCurzioResearch.com. We're here for you. Daniel, one more time, what's your email address? I always say to say it because I don't feel like saying it.
Daniel@CurzioResearch.com. DANIEL.
I know, but I just love when you say it because you hate saying it, so I make you say it. It's cool. Well, thanks, buddy. Again, FrankCurzioResearch.com. Any questions, comments, I'm here for you. Really appreciate all your support, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care.